And one more thing. That famous line by former Apple CEO Steve Jobs takes center stage at today's Apple event. We'll unpack the newest hardware being unveiled. But will Apple have a Jobs-like surprise up its sleeve? It's Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. I'm Tim Stanovic in New York, and this is Bloomberg Take a Break, where we get you caught up on the day's top news and help make sense of it all. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. Apple has a big announcement today. The expectation is that the company will unveil new MacBooks with main processors designed by Apple rather than by Intel. Joining me now is Bloomberg's Apple reporter Mark Gurman, live from Los Angeles. Mark, what is everything that you're expecting from Apple's announcement today? Do you think they're going to confirm these in-house made chips?
Tim, thank you so much for having me. So yes, today is going to be the rollout of the first Mac computers using Apple's own processors. So in June, they officially confirmed that they would start moving to Apple processors later this year. And this is the launch where they're actually going to detail how fast these are, their performance, and the new machines that are going to be running them. So today what we're going to see in all likelihood is a new MacBook Air as well as a new MacBook Pro these chips.
So why is this such a big deal, Mark? Why is this something that customers should actually care about? It's, after all, this is inside the computer, and computers have gotten so fast over the last few years. Is this actually going to make a big difference?
I think so, Tim. So, I'm sure a lot of, our viewers are iPhone and iPad users, and they sense that perhaps they have problems with them from time to time, but I would be surprised if they ever said that they slowed down or got sluggish or got super buggy. And, for all intents and purposes, they tend to work pretty well. And a lot of that is due to not only the processor that is designed by Apple in the phone and the iPad, but it's the integration with software and the integration with apps. It's all designed together. That's why it tends to work so well and be so efficient. The Mac, on the other hand, is sort of a mishmash of parts, right? Some of the parts are from Intel, some of the parts are from Apple, the software is from Apple, the apps are from Apple and third-party developers. Now it's all going to be one stack with the processors designed by Apple as well. So that should result in increased efficiency, fewer bugs, less slowdowns. It should make for an overall better experience. I like to basically say, it'll work as well as an iPad, but like a Mac.
Yeah, I guess, Mark, I'm wondering why this has taken Apple so long to do. After all, the iPhone has been out for more than a decade. The iPad has been out for years. Why has Apple had to rely on Intel's chips for 15 years at this point?
Yeah, so Intel, in terms of computer processors, has really been the best up until maybe 3 years ago. That's when Apple's processors, starting with that iPad A12X chip that shipped with the iPad Pro, I'm told, when Apple released that chip, that's when they realized that, we're fast enough now to really compete with Intel on computer processors. So they got to that milestone. For the last 2 years, they've really been ramping up and, making it work as a Mac processor. There's lots of unique things from the graphics perspective and other components that need to be redone for a computer, and obviously that takes time. But now is when they feel they're really able to surpass Intel in capability, so now's the right time to roll it out.
Mark, I can't help but notice that you appear to be joining us from your living room rather than from the spaceship Apple HQ in Cupertino, California, a few hundred miles to the north of you. Any other year, you would be joining us live from the Bay Area, but this year is certainly different. What can we expect from today's event, given that we already saw Apple hold a digital event, a virtual event, just a few weeks ago for the iPhone?
It's actually interesting, Tim. So this will be Apple's 4th digital event in a row. That tells you how long this pandemic has been going on for. And it's the 3rd in 3 months. So they had the September one for the iPad Air and the new Apple Watch. Obviously, they had the October one for the iPhone 12 line and the HomePod Mini. Now this is all going to be about the new MacBooks with Apple's processors. And, I think this is going to be a very exciting event for Mac fans, which is a really loyal user base for Apple. Pretty much everyone who we interact with on Twitter, right? Those are the hardcore Mac fans, as well as people who write applications for Apple. And obviously, I can tell you that Intel is going to very likely be very much tuned into what Apple has to say today as well.
Okay, so expecting any surprises, Mark? I know one more thing was something that Steve Jobs liked to say at the end of his keynotes. And there he would unveil some of his biggest projects. That's the title of today's announcement. Any surprises that they could have up their sleeves?
So I think the one more thing tagline for this event is representative of two things. One, this is literally the last thing they're going to do this year. So this is their one more thing, right? It's a kind of way of saying, all right, we've already had 2 events in the last 2 months. We have one more, so that's one more thing. And then the other thing is when Apple released their switch from PowerPC chips from IBM back in 2006 to Intel, the first computer that they transitioned over to the Intel processors was the MacBook Pro. And that was introduced by Steve Jobs as one of those one more things that you hit at. So the MacBook Pro is going to be one of the first machines to transition from Intel to Apple's chips. So I think that's an interesting way to represent it. In terms of any additional surprises, well, there are 2 other products that are sort of in the near-term product pipeline for Apple that I don't believe are ready to necessarily ship yet, but those would be Apple's over-ear headphones, which are going to be these super priced headphones to sort of compete with, Bose and Sennheiser and Sony and some of those other headphone providers, as well as AirTags, which are these clips that you can clip onto your wallet or backpack, et cetera, to locate physical items. Now, again, I don't believe either of those are ready to ship in the near term, but if Apple were to, pull a trick out of its hat and preview something extra early, I couldn't imagine it would be anything other than those 2. But I don't think it's going to happen, but those are just a couple, moonshot possibilities for today.
Yeah, and maybe you will have to wait a few more months when we can actually get back there live in person. Mark, before we let you go, got to ask about Peloton. Some big news this morning. I know this is a company that you cover closely. Just at 7 a.m. this morning, Peloton announcing a partnership with Beyonce. It's a multi-year deal. What are the details of this, and why did it send the stock kind of all over the place today?
Yeah, this Beyonce deal is a very, interesting one. So today they said that they have this agreement with Beyonce where they are going to launch several new workout classes over the coming months that are based and curated by Beyonce, and they will be played against music from Beyonce. They said Beyonce is one of their more popular, or actually their most popular and most requested artist on Peloton workout classes. Now, the interesting thing here is I don't believe that Beyonce is actually going to be teaching any of these classes. I'm not sure they're going to have her yet. I think some people naturally assume that's what the partnership was, but no. And this is actually a partnership with several historically black colleges and universities for upcoming homecoming events. So that's going to be tied in as well. Peloton is doing some charitable donations to those colleges too. So it's sort of a mix of things with Beyonce, the centerpiece of the deal. Yesterday, the stock dropped north of 20% because we got that news from Pfizer about progress on a vaccine. Now they went up a little bit after that Beyonce deal. Obviously, she's a big name. She's going to bring increased attention over to the Peloton brand. But, very interesting that they would drop 20% on just the vaccine news, right? That means that many investors seem to think that Peloton is not going to be able to continue its success in a post-pandemic world. They, of course, say they will.
And Peloton stock over the last 3 days still down more than 15%. Bloomberg News' Mark Gurman, live from Los Angeles. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We'll check back in with you for Apple stuff later this week.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.